Our Sarah Thomsen is live at a very active crime scene. She joins us with what she's found out so far. Sarah.
Aisha, thanks. We are out here on the west side of Green Bay. So far, police have not released any official information to us right now, but this is a very active scene, as you can see behind me. I'm going to step out of the way so you can see. We are on the 800 block of Stony Brook Lane on the far west side of Green Bay. This is a pretty quiet street, a pretty quiet neighborhood, but you can see crime scene tape up here, all of the police vehicles, in fact, some detectives on the back side of that crime scene unit there. That has all been here for quite a few hours. The Green Bay Police Department crime scene truck arrived here before we got here about 9 o'clock this morning. They've been here since early this morning. We have watched detectives and crime scene unit members going in and out of that house. They're dressed in white Tyvek suits, usually worn to preserve evidence at a crime scene. Now, about an hour and a half ago, some more detectives arrived. Some talked to neighbors and said they could only tell them there is no danger to the public and they will be here for quite a while. Neighbors say police have been at this house a few times in the past. Now, we are expecting more information from police, hopefully within the next couple of hours. We will stay here live out here in this neighborhood and bring you any details we get from police and from this neighborhood live on air and online. Reporting live in Green Bay, Sarah Thomsen, Action 2 News.
We begin with a first alert on a story we've been following since early this morning. Police are still on the scene of what they are now calling a suspicious death. It happened in the early morning hours in a neighborhood on the west side of Green Bay on the 800 block of Stony Brook Lane. And that's where Sarah Thomsen has been all day, talking with neighbors and police. She's live at the scene now with what we know right now. Sarah.
Well, Bill, police have been here on scene going into the 13th hour now since they were called to this home that you see behind me. You can see that crime scene unit truck back there as well. That's been here all day, though it did just move about 15 minutes ago to make way for the medical examiner to pull into that driveway of the Stony Brook Lane home there. We did see a stretcher with a body bag on it being carried out of that house, put in the medical examiner's van, and then driven away just a few minutes ago. Now, all day we have been watching detectives, the medical examiner's office, and crime scene unit members coming in and out of that house wearing Tyvek suits, collecting evidence all day long. It is all for what we now know involves the death of a 25-year-old man. Now, while it is still early on in a very complex death investigation, police believe the man died inside this home, but when, they are still not sure. They are releasing very few details right now and will only say the death did not involve a firearm. Police tell us the victim did not live here but knew someone who did. They say one of the residents at this Stony Brook Lane home called police shortly before 3:30 this morning to report a suspicious death. Police Chief Chris Davis says not long after, officers were called to an address on the 2300 block of Eastman Avenue on the other side of the city where they took a person of interest into custody. They tell us they are not looking for anyone else right now. Police are stopping short of actually calling this a homicide, but say they are working with the Brown County District Attorney's Office.
I can also tell you that right now we believe this was an isolated incident, that these two were people who knew each other, so this is not a stranger to stranger incident, and we do not believe that there is any risk to the community.
And police do expect to be here for a while yet this evening. They are asking anyone in this neighborhood or anyone in this area who may have seen or heard anything suspicious to report that to police so they can check it out. Now, I talked to a lot of neighbors since we have been here, arriving shortly after 9 this morning. Most of them say this is a quiet neighborhood, but they have seen police and a lot of traffic going in and out of this house in the prior months. We'll continue to stay on this. Any new updates we get from police, we will pass along to you right away. Reporting live in Green Bay, Sarah Thomsen, Action 2 News.
We have been following this investigation since this morning, police calling it an isolated incident and the public is not at risk. Sarah Thomsen has been following this all morning. She is live at the scene. So Sarah, let's recap what we know right now.
Well, right now, and you can still see the crime scene tape behind me, that crime scene van, truck, I should say, behind me. They've been there all day. They've been here since we got here just after 9 this morning. They're probably going to be there for quite a while yet this evening. What we know right now, and police are releasing very few details, telling us in a news conference at around 1 o'clock this afternoon, they were less than 12 hours into this, and they're still learning a lot about this. But what we do know, a 25-year-old man died they believe inside this house. When and where, those details they're still trying to figure, or when and how I should say, those details they're still trying to figure out. They say a firearm was not involved, but they are not releasing any more information about how this person died. We did see the medical examiner's office back a van up into that driveway about half an hour, 45 minutes ago, and take a body out on a stretcher. Therefore, an autopsy likely to be done soon, where we're hoping we'll get some more answers as to what may have happened.
All right, Sarah, as I mentioned, you've been out there all morning. You were at the news conference as well. So anything that you've heard or seen that would lead you to believe or give some indication that this might be something atypical that we don't hear a lot about?
Well, Chris, you could, the police chief stopped short of even calling this a homicide, calling this a suspicious death investigation. But they do have a person in custody. They say they're not looking for anybody else right now, so the public not in any danger. What I can tell you is I've seen a lot of detectives, a lot of people from the crime scene unit going in and out of the house today. They had suits on, white Tyvek suits. They usually wear those to make sure they're preserving any kind of evidence that might be at a crime scene. If there happens to be a lot of evidence, for instance, they do that to try to keep everything safe and preserved. I also saw several people from the medical examiner's office. That you don't see in a lot of cases like this. There were at least 4 people from the medical examiner's office that we saw here on scene. Several of them, I believe, from Madison. They are not people that we see typically in the Green Bay area, so not people locally here. So that again raises more questions about what really happened inside this house.
So Sarah, let me follow up on that quickly. Why would a different county's medical examiner be called in? Is that unusual?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because that I know this, but probably not a lot of people do. So the county has an agreement to work with the Dane County Medical Examiner's Office. So anytime that there is a death, someone from that office will work the case here in Brown County. It's an agreement they have with a couple of counties in this area. Usually, though, there's a local investigator that works that case for the Medical Examiner's Office. More complex cases, more complicated, more difficult cases, they sometimes bring in people from the Dane County office itself, and that is who I believe we saw here this afternoon.
That's where Sarah Thomsen has been all day long. She joins us now live with the latest on the investigation there. Sarah.
Bill and Cammie, the scene looks much the same as it did when we arrived shortly after 9 this morning. You can see that crime scene tape up in front of this Stony Brook Lane home. That crime scene van is still there. It moved just a little before 4 p.m. for really the first time all day, and that was to allow the medical examiner to back into the driveway. We did see a stretcher taken into the house, a body bag placed on it, and then taken away in the ME's van. Police say a 25-year-old man who lived in Green Bay but not here died in this home. Exactly when and how, police are not yet saying. Police were called to this home shortly before 3:30 this morning by someone who lived here reporting a suspicious death. Police are leaving it at that, though, not going as far as to call this a homicide. However, they are telling us shortly after that 911 call, police did take a person of interest into custody on the 2300 block of Eastman Avenue and say they are working with the Brown County District Attorney's Office. They do tell us, though, they are not looking for anyone else right now. They want to assure neighbors that this is an isolated incident and that the person in custody and the victim knew each other. Now, police are calling this a complex investigation. We've seen several people from the medical examiner's office, as well as detectives and crime scene unit members, wearing Tyvek suits going in and out of that house all day. Those suits are often worn to preserve evidence at a crime scene.
When we have a case like this, there is obviously a lot of work to be done to make sure we don't leave any kind of evidence behind, and even forensic evidence that's not even readily identifiable. There's a very detailed process that they have to go through to make sure we have all the evidence and that we collect it all and catalog it appropriately.
And again, police are not saying how this man died, but they did tell us it did not involve a firearm. We asked if they have had any contact before with that person that they took into custody, and police wouldn't really give us any information about that person, not even going so far as to say whether or not it was a man or a woman. Now, you can see, obviously, officers still here on scene. We expect them to be here for a while, but they're hoping as every hour that passes, they work on this investigation a little bit more, that they will have answers for the public. How How soon in a complicated investigation remains to be seen. We'll stay on this, though, and let you know any new information we hear from police. Reporting live in Green Bay, Sarah Thomsen, Action 2 News.
From WBAY TV, your first alert station, Action 2 News starts right now with breaking news.
Good evening. Breaking news involving a death investigation that we first told you about nearly 1 week ago.
This 24-year-old woman, Taylor Shabusiness, faces multiple charges, including homicide and mutilating a corpse. It stems from what police have been calling a suspicious death investigation of a 25-year-old Green Bay man. We first told you about it as investigators worked that crime scene on Stony Brook Lane last Wednesday.
Sarah Thomsen was there live all day then and is now joining us live outside the courthouse with new details that we have learned today. Sarah.
Cammie and Bill, there are a lot of ways people are probably describing this case since details were posted to our website early this afternoon. Disturbing, troubling, bizarre at the top of that list. Now, the details of what police and prosecutors say Taylor Shabusiness did to the man they say she killed can only be described as incredibly graphic. Last Wednesday morning, hours before the sun came up, police were called to the Stony Brook Lane home by the woman who lives there, telling them she had discovered her son's severed head in a bucket at the bottom of the basement stairs. The woman told police she'd heard a door slam between 2 and 3 a.m., waking her. She told police she went to check out a light left on downstairs and made the gruesome discovery. In addition to a lot of blood, police reported finding body parts and bags and storage containers in the basement. Shabusiness even telling police, quote, they were going to have fun trying to find all the organs as she dismembered the body. Shabusiness told police she used knives she'd found in the kitchen. Prosecutors say the medical examiner determined the victim died by strangulation. Shabusiness telling police it happened during a sexual encounter and that she did not mean to kill the victim, but told investigators she just went crazy. Police say Shabusiness was smoking meth with the victim before the murder. In court, prosecutors detailed a lengthy criminal record for her, telling a court commissioner Shabusiness had a warrant out for her arrest, was on probation, and was supposed to be wearing an electronic monitoring bracelet at the time of the murder, but appeared to have removed it somehow. Police say Shabusiness was the last person to see the victim alive, sending them looking for her first thing Wednesday morning, finding her on the east side of the city with blood on her clothing and hands. Adding, when they searched her van, they found a box with additional human body parts inside. Shabusiness is also charged with sexual assault for what prosecutors say were acts that happened after the victim had died. She's being held on a $2 million cash bond and is due back here in court in the courthouse behind me in a couple of weeks. Police have not identified the 25-year-old victim in this case and say his family is asking for privacy. Reporting live in Green Bay, Sarah Thomsen, Action 2 News.